as a 4-year-old lad, I remember getting on my first Intercity 125 train before I'd even started school, and that was 48 years ago, Minister. But in Scotland, we're obviously still got the HSTs in place. Now, the rail unions have expressed their concern at the crash worthiness of these trains following on from the Carmont derailment. So what is the current plan for retiring these trains?
So in terms of ensuring that we have safe trains operating, that's essential. In terms of the review that took place, and indeed the continuing work of the replacement of the HSTs, and indeed looking at that work, that obviously is continuing, but the reassurances that we've had from those that looked particularly at the rail safety positions of the HSTs, they're satisfied that they can still run and can run safely. The unions are also involved in the replacement discussions that are taking place and the timing for them. Clearly, what we want to do is have real decarbonisation that would lead to replacement of the HSTs by electrified systems. And the timing of that depends on, so there's a lot, you can imagine there's a lot of things in play here. And so clearly the timing for replacement will tie in with how we can, advance the electrification. There are some, and I've heard calls to try and midstream replace them with other diesels, but that then is the cost expense of that, and that would then in terms of knock-on impact, may not help in terms of that drive towards electrification. So these are all things that are in play, but the most important thing is we've got a steering group that's looking about the HST replacement that is involving everybody that's necessary, including unions, as well as clearly
So would you expect the East Coast electrification to happen before, has to happen before the trains are replaced, but do you expect it to happen before 2030?
In terms of the timescales for that, Bill, can I maybe ask you to reply to that?
Part of the work currently as part of the refresh of the decarbonisation action plan.
Sorry.
My apologies. Sorry. Convenor. I was saying that these are all issues that are linked to the refresh of the decarbonisation action plan for rail, about what the optimum programme is for delivery. So there are works underway now, for example, some of the power supply points for the electrification into Fife and beyond, some of that have already been ordered. The development work for the electrification to Aberdeen is continuing. The timescales remain to be confirmed as part of this refresh work.
But, sorry, just last point. But would it be possible to have it electrified by 2030? Because we're only talking about 7 years away. It seems quite optimistic, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, that's part of the work, is to how do we make sure everything's aligned, that we can do the work, finance the work, make sure that we've got the carriages and the trains that we'll need, etc., and have that timing. And it's that's so the aim is to have that decarbonisation to happen by 2030. That is what we want to try and obviously continue to achieve, and that's what.
And you still think that's realistic?
Well, I'm a politician. I'm not a rail expert.
You're
so
the
in terms
minister
of, and that's actually why we do ask the experts to advise us in terms of that timescale of what's possible, when, etc. But in terms of the drive, that's we've got the intention to do this. We just have to make sure we put all our ducks in a row in terms of making sure that can happen. And that's the realistic thing you would do, and that's why Mark Ruskell asked about it. The Rail Decarbonisation Refresh Plan will help do that. Is there anything else that anybody wants to do?
On that, so I understand it, when you took over the rolling stock as part of the nationalisation, presumably there'd be a contract for the leasing of the rolling stock, which would include HST. When's the first time you can get out of that contract?
That's 2030.
Sorry?
2030.
So we're stuck with HST till 2030 because otherwise you'll be in breach of contract?
It may be possible to bring in other trains, but we'd need to be persuaded of the economic merit of that.
Yeah, so there may be an incredible cost as well if we try and get it before 2030. I'm going to go to